This is the finished little grot that we're going to be working on today. As said in the description, it's not meant to be a winning golden demon standard, it's a tabletop one. It's a nice quick paint job to get your grots looking cool. Hi, it's Rob from the Brush and Bulk Gun. Today I'm going to be doing a quick tutorial on how to paint Gretchin. If you'd like to support the channel, my Ko-fi and Patreon pages are linked below. Now on to the video. First colour we're going to use is Vallejo White. I'm going to use this to paint the little guy's trousers. He's going to be a Death Skull's Gretchin. So he's going to have the white and blue stripy trousers, which I love so much. Being Gretchin, he's not going to have the more thorough paint job on him. It is going to be quite a quick paint job that this guy's getting. But it is good enough to make him look ace when he's on the tabletop. Now we'll have some nice cool details on there. Now I'm going to use a little bit of Baneblade brown. I'm going to use this to paint all of the leather. So I've done this sack here, so it's some sort of like little leather sack that has got all the teeth in. Also use this to do his belt and his pouches. And the little flaps down each side of his helmet. Or hat, whatever it is. It's actually the model of Nikkit from, can't remember the name of him, the orc fella. He's pointing his pistol forwards, and then you've got this guy with him as well. He's one of the commemorative miniatures. So I thought I'd decide to paint him up as a little Sunday video because it's quite a quick one. We're now using Citadel Skarsnik green to paint his skin. Yeah, quite a quick little video, but quite a cool little miniature that I've wanted to paint for a while. So I may do another one of Ghazghkull's little mate, if anyone wants to see that. Because I do quite like that Ghazghkull miniature too. Really should paint him up one day. Next up, Citadel Mephiston Red. We're just going to do a tiny little bit of red in his mouth here. He's straining from all the teeth that he's carrying. If you ever saw the objective marker that I made a while ago, and it was the orc boy lying down as a little goblin scooting off with a sack full of teeth, I think that's why I wanted to paint this guy quite a bit too. Just using a little bit of Iron Hand steel there to paint his belt buckle and the top of his helm. Now using a little bit of Citadel Mournfang brown to do the fur around the top of his head, around the bottom of the helm too. Like so. Now I'm going to use Citadel Rakarth flesh. Just going to jab some of this into the hole which is in the bottom of that sack there. There's a couple of little teeth falling out, so you just want to add a little bit of Rakarth flesh to them just to give them the base colour. I'm going to use Snakebite leather contrast first. I'm going to use this on the sack and also on the flaps on each side of his helm. Next up, Citadel Wyldwood contrast. I'm going to use this to do his pouch and belt. Next up, Athonian Camoshade. I'm going to use this on his skin. Don't want to get this too dark. I do want him quite light skinned. So just give this nice little coat on all of his flesh. Then we can move on. Now I'm going to use a little bit of Carroburg crimson inside his mouth. I'll just darken down that Mephiston red. Next up, Nuln Oil. This is to do his belt buckle and also the top part of his helmet too. Like so. A little bit of Citadel Apothecary White. This is going to be to do his trousers. Now it's time for a little bit of Citadel Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to use this to do the fur around the top of the helm there. I'm also going to use a little bit on the helm itself just to weather that metal. Don't have to do that, of course, but I just like to have that little bit grotty looking. Now some Citadel Seraphim Sepia. I'm going to use this just to shade those teeth that are hanging out the bag there. So the first colour we're going to use is Citadel Balor Brown. We're going to use this to start recolouring that leather sack that he's holding there. So you're going to be thinking about where the light's catching it and highlighting the ridges and things like that, just so the lighter sections are getting that colour back into them. Now we're adding some Citadel Rakarth flesh to the previous mix, and we're going to do highlights on top of the ones that we've just done. Now, these don't have to be even, they're not meant to be smooth highlights, they're meant to be quite rough and ragged, and showing scuffs in the leather. Which if you look at scuffs, they never tend to be 100% smooth or perfectly rounded. They are usually quite jagged and a bit rough and chafed around the edges. Now we're going to add a little bit more Rakarth flesh to the previous mix. We're just going to paint on a few more chafes and scratches on the leather sections. I'm going to use a little bit of Citadel Macragge blue here. I wasn't really sure what colour to do the little kind of explosion sign on the bag, so while I was painting the stripes on the trousers here, I thought, you know what, I'll just do it the same blue as them, just to add a slight little bit of Death Skulls colouring to them. These are very rough blue stripes going down the trousers. As I say, it's only a little Gretchin, so it's only a quick paint job, this one. But it's just enough detail on there to make it stand out, make it visible. Now I'm going to use a tiny little bit of plain Rakarth flesh and just touch up those bones or teeth hanging out the bag there, and also his own teeth. To highlight the Macragge blue, we're going to use a little bit of Citadel Rust Grey. We're just going to do some light highlights around the edges of the explosion here, and on the tops of the creases and areas that might be catching a little bit of light. So the top of his butt, so the top of the bits on the back of his calves. Next up, Citadel Ushabti bone. I'm just going to do a little bit of a highlight on the end of these teeth, so you're doing about 50% of these teeth with Ushabti bone. Now we're going to use a little bit of Citadel Screaming Skull, and we're going to highlight about 25% of the teeth in the bag there, just the very ends of the goblin's teeth, but about 25% of these teeth at the bottom going over the Ushabti bone bit. Now we're going to highlight his skin using Citadel Skarsnik green. Once again, reapply some of the colour, leaving the shade in the recesses. And to highlight, we're going to add a little bit of Citadel Nurgling green to the Skarsnik green. We are just going to do some light highlights on the skin to make some of the details stand out, like the knuckles, the fingers, the little ridges and muscles in the arms. If you think about where the light's going to catch these, you can add it to those areas pretty easy, pretty quickly, and get those highlights so that the skin and the details stand out quite nicely. Now I'm going to use a little bit of Citadel Mournfang brown. I'm going to reapply some brown onto each of these little tufts of fur on the hat or the helm. Just go around and give each of these a little bit of Mournfang brown, leaving the shade in the recesses. Then we can return back and highlight those a little bit more. So we are going to add a little bit of Citadel Rakarth flesh to the Mournfang brown. We are just going to do one tiny little highlight on each of these brown bits of fur sticking out to highlight those details. Now we're going to work on the pouches and the belt using a little bit of Citadel Thondia brown. This goes nice as a kind of slightly lighter base colour for Baneblade brown with the Wyldwood on top of it. Just do like a first layer of highlights with that. Then we're going to add some Citadel Balor brown to the Thondia brown to lighten that up. And then we are just going to highlight these leathery sections. I'll link up some leathery bits and videos to show you, but we'll do them with a nice rough edge to make it look like they're a little bit scuffed. Well, the two final colours coming up, it's Citadel Blood for the Blood God Technical Paint. All this is, I think of when they're pulling the teeth out, they're going to get that little bit of blood and gore coming out. So I wanted to add a little bit of this to the miniature, make it look as though there's some blood sinking through the, or seeping through the bottom of the bag and trailing onto the floor there, to make it look like they are fresh teeth, possibly not from people who are entirely dead yet, but they had some nice currency in their mouth and they've decided to be nicked. So now I'm going to use a little tiny bit of Citadel Carroburg Crimson. This is just to stain the bag, as though they've got the fresh blood at the bottom, and then this is just some old bloodied staining on the bag from previous attempts where they've been stealing other people's teeth. So here's the finished grot that we saw earlier on. Pleased with how he turned out. Nice little addition to the orcs. Looked great following his mate around on the battlefield. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future content. Also, think about subscribing to some of our other social media, linked below. Thanks very much. If you like the channel and you enjoy the content and you'd like to support me, my Coffee and Patreon page are linked below. Thanks very much.